Hello guys. Um so uh, let's see if we are completely live. Yes, we are. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The last stream we did, we added our OAuth config on our Spring REST API, and we started wiring up our front-end application. So we'll continue with that. We created the breadcrumb component lastly. Um, we as well need to export this one. So we'll go to exports and we say breadcrumb components. Okay. So the export is so we can use it in another module. Like I said, we're using Core UI. So if we go to Core UI, you can see we have I'll open the live preview real quick. And you can see that we have here the breadcrumb. So we implemented this component. The header will be a component. The footer will be a component. The left sidebar and the right sidebar will both be as well components. So let's create those. And after we create those, we will basically wire it up in our layout template thingy. So what's the next component we can create? Let's go for the footer. So we create a new component called footer. Okay. Let's open it up. Okay, so we have an input in this footer. So you say at input fixed, and this is a bool. So basically, do we want this footer to be fixed or not? And then we will have our element ref. And we do replace. And then we say this is fixed. And we say, well, basically all you can do is if this dot is fixed, then this is fixed. Document dot query selector. Over here, we select the body and we say class list and we add footer dash fixed. So when the footer is fixed, we will add it to the class list of the body. Pretty easy. Then the HTML, it's no rocket science, so we want the footer. Which will have a class up footer. We have a div with an href. Can put CCMS in there and copy 2018 zwaldeck. Div class ml auto. And this one will create our footer. And we will as well have some small CSS. So we will have up footer will have height of 50 pixels. So this is fixed. And as well, we need to make sure we export our footer component. Okay. So what's next? We can create the header components, I guess. So again, component. Yeah, setup of a project is always a long time, but when everything is set up, it's really easy to create new functionality. If you do it correctly, we will export it. Okay. So this is a lot more stuff in there. And I will just copy paste it because it's from the core UI code. I will go over it. Once again, I copied the core UI code because that makes it easier to change in my project itself. So we have an input to make it fixed. We have a navbar brand, navbar full. We have a navbar brand minimized. A lot of inputs, and we will see that it as well what it does in the HTML. I will as well just copy paste it because it's a lot of HTML, which is not that interesting, but we'll go over the most important parts. So basically here we say, okay, when the mobile slide toggler is not false, then we say, okay, we want to be able to show the toggler on mobile. After that, we have an ng template. So if we have a navbar brand, or we have a navbar brand full, or navbar brand minimized, we show the correct image. After that, we have a sidebar toggler. So if we enable the right sidebar or the left one, the left sidebar, this is this toggler. Then we have the basic menu items, which is nice. So I mean these menu items, which we probably want to use, so I will just remove them. It will keep the code in there if we need it sometime. So this is the right stuff. So it's this stuff here, which we will need in the future. There's some nice stuff. We'll just keep it in there for now. And as well, here we have more template. So if you enable the aside menu, then we show it. So basically, it is this menu, and that's our header component. So it's not really rocket science, but yeah. So let's continue further on. So we have our header component. So let's create our left sidebar. which will be our main navigation point. So left sidebar. Left sidebar component. And here we will reuse, because of how it's all set up, it's the easiest to reuse the core UI stuff. Because I didn't like how it was set up, but it's difficult to change because I'm not my CSS is not that good. That's why. So in our component, I will copy paste an array of items, and that's it. It's nothing more. So basically, this says what endpoints we have and stuff, and what icon. And our left sidebar HTML will render it, which we'll do with update sidebar. It's fixed, and the display is LG. Now we have up sidebar nav. We put the nav items there, and we have the up sidebar minimizer. So basically, why are we using the core UI stuff here? It's because of when we remove it and we put the HTML in there, it messes up the layout and the HTML and stuff. So it's easier to reuse this. Because yeah, okay, we just need to define the items in an array, so it's still pretty easy. So we have one more to go. So we'll create another component here. We'll say right sidebar. Okay. So our right sidebar will have some input. So we have add input. We have display any. We have an input if it's fixed or not. And we have an input off canvas. So we need our element again. We do our replace. And then we say if this dot fixed document dot query selector. We select the body. We want the class list, and we add a side menu fixed. Think we can remove the off canvas one. Then we of course have our display. So if we have a display, we say so we can disable it with false. Then I will, it's not great code, but I will just copy paste it because it works. Okay. So basically we say here, okay, we want a side menu large or something like that, and that shows it. So for our HTML, it's as well pretty easy. So we say aside class aside menu. We have a top set. I need to check if we added the bootstrap tops module. Yes. Okay. So we have a top which has an ng template, top heading, directive, say I class icon dash list, and we say it's for now a tab 1. This is just set up to have it nice. We have 2 more tabs, and I made a mistake. Let's fix this. Okay, so we have then speech and settings. Okay, let's rename those tabs so we see the difference and we can see if it works. So that's it for our structure components. We of course need to export our right sidebar component, so we can close this up. So back to our layout where we still have our errors. We can come to here, and we open our HTML. Okay. So in our main layout, we need our breadcrumb items. We need to make it public because it needs to be available in the HTML. So we have breadcrumbs. And we initialize it to an empty array. We have a public add URL, which is null, and we have an add text, which is as well null. In our constructor, we need to inject it with our current route, so activated route. We need our router, so we say router, and we need a change detector, so change detector, change detector ref. Okay, and we will extend our base. Okay, we didn't create our base component yet. I always create a base component class, and I will create it now. So we have a base.component. So we export it, but it's an abstract. And it implements on destroy. So when our component is destroyed, we as well want our RxJS observables to be destroyed. Code Factum, hi to you as well. How are you today? So we have a protected ng unsubscribe. It's a subject of a bool, and we initialize it directly. So we have our ng on destroy implemented, so we will do ng on destroy here, and we'll say this.ng unsubscribe dot next is true, and then we say this.ng unsubscribe is completed. Yeah. So basically, we will say, okay, this is completed. So we can do a take until and then put the ng unsubscribe in there, and then it will terminate when our component is terminated. And we will have a helper method for forms, so protected on form value changed, and that's the way how I do forms. So I pass it to form group. Form group. This will be clearer when we are starting going to create forms. But it's good to have this setup out of the way. Validation messages any, and it returns any, because we don't know what those objects will be defined as. So we have a for, we have a const field in form errors. So we want our field in form errors. So we say form errors field equals this. So we clear all form errors. So basically we clear the form errors out. We want our control. So we have then abstract control, and we say this control is form get field. And what is it whining about? Possible iteration of unsuspect custom. Don't care. Then if we have a control and the control is dirty and it's not valid, so the control is not valid, then we say, okay, const messages equals validation messages of the field. Then we do another loop. So we have keys in our control errors, and then if messages has this key, then we say form errors of the field equals our messages with that key, and we break out of this one. So per form control, so for example we have an email, a username and a password, you can only have one error at a time on those fields. So we have one error for email and password, that's possible, but not two errors for a password, for example. And I will as well disable this in our TSLint. Okay. So this is an helper method to basically map the errors we have and the messages we have from validation messages onto the form errors object. So we use our base component here. So we now need to have a super. And I made a typo over here. So after that we can choose if we do it in ng on init or in the constructor. I will do it in the constructor this time. we have this dot router events. Then this is an observable, so we want to pipe this, and we say take until from the operators, of course. This.ng unsubscribe. So if this component is done, this observable is done. Then we subscribe to this observable. It will give an event. So if the event is an instance of activation end and event dot snapshot dot route config dot path not equals empty, so we say this dot breadcrumbs equals event dot snapshot data breadcrumbs, and this is data we'll put on in our router module onto the routes. So this dot add URL equals event dot snapshot data add URL, and the same for add text. And when this is done, because we added new data to this Safi and we want to make sure it's rendered, we need to do this dot change detector dot detect changes. So we trigger the change detector basically. Okay, now for the HTML. So basically we want the CMS header, we want to give it some options. So we want our header to be fixed. Our navbar okay, so I will we will need to change those image paths. We have a sidebar toggler, which is LG, and we have a side menu toggler, which is as well LG, and we have an error because we didn't import the structure model. Now it will be gone. Okay, so we added our header. So then we have a div with the class up dash body. Okay. We have a ZCMS left sidebar. Then we have a main. Class main. In here we have our breadcrumbs. So we have our breadcrumbs. We have add URL. And we have our add text. Below that we have div class container fluid, which has our router outlet. Below the main we have then our right sidebar, which will be fixed as well. And display is false. And below our app body we of course have our footer, and we will put fixed to false. Okay, so this is our layout setup. So basically we have now our two layouts set up completely. So our first layout is for pages, and our our main layout is for content. So let's first add two pages. We will add a login page, but we won't, well, but we keep just the generated stuff so we can already see something. And we will as well add a content with the main layout, and then we can get into the routing as well. So let's create a new module. We need the shared module, and I think this one will have everything we need. Okay. What does it all export to router translate? Come on, okay. So we will create a page, and it's not found page. So we'll have component not found. So if you don't find our routing, we will show this one. There is no trick to this. It's just some HTML. Div class up flex row align items center. You have a div class container, div class row, and then justify content center, div class call md6 class clear fix. Then we have a h1 with class float left display 3 and mr. This HTML comes from the core UI stuff itself. PT3 Java update. Oops, you're lost. Now we have we class text muted. We have a router link, and we want to go to our home page. When you click it, class button dash info, the type does need to have it back to home. So that's our not found page. Our login page, we will just create a placeholder for now, because that's the first page we will really implement. But we need a component to have our routing, and I will create another module as well. So we will create another module with content, and this is where basically all the good stuff will happen. So this needed the shared module, and we want the components, for example a dashboard, and we'll keep this like this as well. Okay, So now we can go back to our app module. So we will have our shared module. What else do we need? Need our layout module. We need our pages, and we need our content, and we will have an up routing module, and this one needs to go last. Okay. We have our bootstrap, we don't need providers, and we have our declarations. Okay, so now we need our up routing module. So we'll create a new TypeScript file, which will be up dash routing dot module. So in here we start with a const routes array. So we will create our route. And it's an array of some objects. So basically first we will have our main layout routes. So we say our path is empty. Then we have our components is our main layout component, and then it has children, and this will basically be the real route. So we'll have another empty path. Then we have redirect to, so an empty thingy redirects to dashboard, and we see path match is full, and then of course we have a path dashboard with the component dashboard. And I will start adding it on different lines because we will have a lot of. So we have a can activate, and then out guard service, which we will need to implement. So I will comment it out for now. And then we have of course data. So I told you we wanted to add extra data to our component, so we can do this with just an object, and we say okay, breadcrumbs is then we have a breadcrumb config, get breadcrumb config, and we want it for our dashboard. So we can as well have an add URL and add text, but for our dashboard it's not needed. Okay, so that's the first part of our layout. So now we want our pages layout. So our empty layout. So we will add another one where the pod is empty. So it could be in there. So when will Angular get into this one? So when the pod is empty, it will basically go to dashboard. But if we for example say okay /login, it won't find it in here, so it will come into here. So we say our component here is empty layout component, and then of course we add the children. We have then a path for the login. So this one will then match, and this login as a component. Login component will duplicate this twice, so we will have 404 not found. So if we go to 404, we have not found, and all the rest will as well go to not found. So if we cannot find anything, we'll go to the not found with the empty layout. So let's rub this in our ng module. So we have an ng module annotation. We import the router module. We say for root, we give it a route, then we export the router module again. Now we say export class up routing module, and this is done. So now we can import it here, and I hope our app will run. Okay, we have still some errors. So upper routing module has no what? Okay, so it's compiled successful. So okay, we have still some errors. Let's first go to our login. This doesn't work as well. So yeah, we will need to fix this this stuffy. I don't want to preserve my log. Can bind fixed since it's not a known property of app sidebar. Okay, so basically it's complaining on our app sidebar. So where do we use it? Okay, so we are missing something. Let me check. Yeah, it's something real easy. So we will have this one, and then it will now render. So you can see we have everything here. We have our dashboard, it can open, close. We have our logos, we can close this stuff further. We have this one, we have 3 tabs. So if you now go to 404, we see we have a different layout and page. Go back to home, it works. And if we go to login, we will see just login worked. So our basic layouting set up for the front end is done, which is nice. So I will do a commit of a lot of files. Yeah. So now you guys can see it as well in the GitHub. By the way, you can all ask questions in the chat if you have questions about what I'm doing. I'm happy to help you with your questions. Okay, what's next? So why do we set up our front end? Because we need it. Because we need to build our login page. And this as well has again set up, if you believe it or not. No, we will need to set up an HTTP server. We'll use the Angular one, which will create a wrapper to put on the headers. As you saw, we need an out guard, so Angular knows, okay, for this page they need to be logged in. What do we need when they're not logged in and stuff? But it's real fun stuff. And we need, of course, an authentication service to authenticate ourselves. Let's start with the REST service. So this service we'll use to call our API. So create a service and we say REST. Okay, let's see what it generates. We don't want the test file, and we have our provided in already, which is nice. And we have one dependency here, which is our we will have private HTTP client from Angular. Okay. And we will have now our environments for into play. So we have a base API URL. And we need to map it, of course, directly. So our base API URL is localhost 8080, and we have OAuth secret as well, which will copy. So we will find it in our backend, source, main, Java, resources. So we have our secret here. Okay. And we will copy paste it as well to the prod one for production, and we can use it now. So we need some variables. So we need private read only, call it base URL. It's a string, and we say environment dot base API URL. And that's it. So we need to have some methods. So we'll start with first with the private static headers for OAuth. So, and now we have is up, and which is a boolean, and we return HTTP headers. So basically, what do we need to do here is, okay, we need to set some headers to do the get token call for the OAuth, and that's what this one does. So basically, we want to have we want to have a base64 encoded string, so we have then is up. If this is in the up, we say we want to have our user up, else we want to have a public user. Then we do plus, and then of course environment dot out secret. After that we do return no HTTP headers. We can say set authorization, which is then basic with our out string. After that we do set content dash type, and this will be an application slash x www dash form URL encoded. And that's what this method does. We will as well need a private setting method to set the authorization header. And we will use this one for our non-getting tokens or refreshing tokens stuff. So we have we want our token as a string, and we return again HTTP headers. Okay. So, and this one is a little bit smaller. So return no HTTP headers. We set authorization, and this is a bearer. And then we just say, okay, add token as well, and that's it. So now we can have all our endpoints we will use further on. So we'll start with a method public get user token. So get a token for a user that needs to be logged in. So we have a username and a password, and this will return an observable of any. And we will say, okay, const body equals new HTTP params, set grant type to password, set the username to username, and set the password to password, of course. Then we have another variable const headers equals rest service dot headers for OAuth, and it's in up. After that we say return this dot http dot post. So we have our base URL plus OAuth slash token. The data we need to pass is the body to string. After that we need to pass options, and we pass in headers. And that's it. So we can basically copy paste this and do this as well for the public token. Oh. Okay, I don't like this rule from the TS-lint. I will choose my ordering myself, man. Okay. Now we have a get public token. So we have here client credentials. You can remove those two, and for the rest it will be the same. Nope, we need to say okay, this is false. Okay. So those are our two, and so two of the three endpoints to get tokens. So we have a public refresh token. So we have refresh token, and we say this is as well an observable any. Let's copy paste these two. This will be the same. This is true. The grant type will be refresh underscore token, and we set refresh underscore token with refresh token. And after that it's again the same endpoint. Okay, so we will have a get, so we have a public get, we have an endpoint, and we need our token as well. Okay. So what do we do now? We say const headers equals REST service dot authorization header. We pass it a token. Then we set another header with content type and then application slash JSON. After that we do return this dot get this base URL endpoint, and we pass it our headers, and we're happy. So now we need to do it for all the rest of the thingies as well. So we have a post, we will have data, which will be any, and then we have a token. So we have post here, and we will pass the body our data, and that will be our options, which is correct. So for put it will be the same. So we say okay, put and put. We will have as well delete. But our delete won't have data. Delete, delete. And then we have one special one, which is almost post, but not really. So we have here upload. And the only thing that changed here is that we don't want our content type set. And then we have as well a post with the data. And our form data in upload, our data can be form data object. Okay, so that's it for our REST service, which we will use throughout the project. So the next service we can now implement is the Authentication Service. So create a new service, and this will handle everything what has to do with authentication. Okay, so in our constructor we will need a private REST service. So the service you just create. We will need private JWT helper. And we will need to do something in our shared. So we need to have our JWT module here set up. We just configure it with some dummy data. We're not using it for this one, but we will use it to verify our tokens and stuff. So what will we have? We'll guess a public authenticate, our username, which is a string, and the password is as well a string, and it will return a bool. Okay. So what we want to do is return this dot REST service, get the user token with the username and the password. We want to pipe this with a map, so we want to map our data. So we have data any. So we have session storage dot set item token dash info, and then we will have a JSON dot stringify. I will make a const token info object. Access token is data access underscore token. We then have as well a refresh token, data dot refresh underscore token token info. After that we will do this refresh after delay, which we'll need to implement, and then we say return true, which will resolve most of our errors. Okay. After the map we want of course to catch errors. So we have error of the type HTTP error response. So if error.error is an instance of error event, we say event emitter of I made a boo-boo. Emitter service of login error dot emit common dot errors something wrong, and this is basically a translation key, else we say almost the same, but we'll change the key. Service dot errors dot out invalid credentials, and then we say of course return off, and we say false, so our bool is false, and that's it. So now we will have some helper methods. So we want a method to get our token, so public get token string, so const token info equals session storage dot get item token dash info. If we do not have token info, or JSON parse token info dot access token, then we return null, so we cannot do anything. So we have then a const access token JSON parse token info dot access token. If this dot is valid, we need to implement that one. The access token we return null as well, else we return access token. So basically we say, okay, if we have an access token stored and it is valid, we return it. We maybe as well want a public get token info. This is basically an any. So we check, we get token info again like this part. We skip this part, then we get this small part as well, and we say return this. So we return our token info object. Okay, so we as well want some refresh functionality, so we have a public refresh token observable, and it's a bool. So we have return this dot rest service dot refresh token. Now we say this dot get token info. Wow. Then if token info equals null, we do not have any token info, so we return false. So after that we can do token info dot refresh token. Yes. We pipe this, we mop it, we have data any, and we basically do the same as here. And then we return true. Okay. Um, and we will have the same error handling as the other one, and that's it. So we have a public logout as well. This does just remove item token dash info. We have public is authorized. Turn this get token not equals null. Then we have another interesting method. So we have private refresh after delay, which is a void, and we use it in a get token. So basically we want to trigger automatically the refresh token. So we say we want our token, so const token equals the string and it equals this get token. So if token not equals null, we can do it. So we say we want an observable. Let's make it of a string, doesn't matter. We pipe this one and we put a delay on it. So we want basically that our token it's after 3600 seconds it goes away, so we want to refresh it earlier, so we say okay, after 3000 seconds we refresh our token. Then we subscribe to this. We have a res which we are not going to use. Then we have this dot refresh token dot subscribe. We have the result here, which is a bool. So if our result is true, Then we say, okay, this refresh after delay. So you want to trigger our refresh again after 3000. Else we do this.logout. Because we're logged out. And that's basically our refresh mechanism. We as well had one small private method was isValid. We want our token as a param string. We have a bool. And basically we return this.jwthelper.isToken expired, and we pass the token. So if the token is not expired, it's valid. The JWT helper is something from Out0, I think, and they help a lot with it. So we have one more service to create for our authentication stuff setup, and that was our outguard, which implements can activate. So our constructor, it will have a private router. And we have a private out service, authentication service. And basically we just want to return a bool here, no observable or anything. So if this outguard service is authorized, we can return true. Else we say this dot router dot navigate by URL. So we want to go back to our login, but we want a redirect URL. So if you are logged out or something by our outguard, it goes back to your login screen, but with a redirect URL parameter, and basically we can after that redirect back to our page where we navigated to first, which is a better experience for the user. So yes, state.url, and that's it for our outguard service. So we can go back to our routing module, and we can activate this. So if we now go, I still have errors. Okay, let's just refresh it. So when it is again built, if we then go to our dashboard, it will redirect back to login if we done everything correctly. But it's not rebuilding. Okay, it's done. So if we now go to dashboard, it should go back to login, and we have our redirect URL. As you can see over here, if we then go for a base64 decode, we paste here, we decode it, What? Okay. So there are issues there. So the first part is correct, but I don't know what this is. That's equals. Yeah. So those two are equals. So yeah, it's as well URL encoded. As you can see, we go back to the login. We have our redirect thingy. So when we log in again, we should go to that redirect URL. So that's all working. So let's do a small commit. So we commit and push. Now you guys have the code as well. Oh, I did not add some files. Let's just commit it again. Okay, so push is successful. Let's start coding on our login page. So this is where we have our first form, so you guys will know how we deal with forms. So how we deal with forms, well, how I do it in my projects is I have an object called form errors, which will basically contain all the field names, and we will have a field username, we will have a field password, we have public validation messages, which will basically be, we have an object with a form field, so, and then the key of the error, so we want it to be required. Then we have our error, form error dot required, and the same, oh, and our password is as well required. Oh, sorry, this needs to be password. Okay. Then of course we have a public form, and this is a form group. Now we have a public error, which is a string, which will be null. Then we have a small, we have a private redirect URL, which default is just empty, and empty will redirect back to our dashboard. So we need our form builder. We will need our out service, so we can authenticate. We will need our router. And we will need our current route. So activated route, and that's it. Of course, we want to extend our base component. I'm going to put this on a new line. We need to call super now. Then we say this dot route query params. We pipe this one with take until, this.ng and subscribe. We subscribe to it. It's params. If params redirect URL and params redirect URL not equals null, not equals empty, of course. The null check is in this one. Then we say this dot redirect URL equals b. I want to have the other one. So JavaScript decode this. The 8 top function decodes. Okay. 8 top params redirect URL. And then we have our emitter service off, and we want to listen to login errors. Okay, we subscribe, which will be error string. This dot error equals error. So when we have an error from our REST API, it will map it to that one. Then on init, we'll say this dot build form, which will be a private method. So private build form, which is a void. So here we say this dot form equals this dot form builder dot group, and we have a field username. Now we give it an empty value, and we have then any validator required. We duplicate this line for passwords. After that we say this dot form dot values changes. Then we say, okay, we want a pipe. We want to take until this dot ng unsubscribe, nothing serious there. Then we want a debounce time. So we don't want to execute it always when we're still typing, but after a debounce time of a quarter of a second, we can execute this. Then we do subscribe. We have data which we're not going to use. Then this dot form errors equals this dot on form values changed. This form, this dot form errors, this dot validation messages. And then to initialize every variable, we call it again, and we say this dot on form values and this will make sure we have all our error handling on the front end correctly. Now we need one more function. So we say, okay, we will have a submit function, so we can submit our form. So if this dot form.dirty and this form is valid. We say okay, I'm not sure how I will do loading yet. Let's do it globally for now. Maybe later on we'll change it out. Okay. So we'll add some code to our base components. I'll make it protected. It's something I used in previous project as well. It works, but it's a loader for the whole page. Which is basically which we'll add in our app component. So we'll have in our app component some code. I'm not the biggest fan of this approach, but okay, yeah. For now it's work and it's really easy. The CSS is already in there. I think I added it, yeah, so it's all this stuff. For now it goes to faucet, so I will do it, and we'll probably change it out to chunk loading later on. So I forgot something else. So public is loading bool equals false. So we have a constructor with the super. What do we need to inject? So, well, we as well need to set up our our translation. So translate service it's something I forgot. So this dot translate service dot set default language to en, and we as well say use en. Okay, after that we say emitter service dot off loading. We have a pipe of take until this dot ng unsubscribe. Then we have subscribe of loading, which is a bool, and then we say this is loading equals to loading, and then we will show it here when it's loading. So now our loading and downloading map to this little part here. Yeah. So in our submit now we can say this dot loading. After that we say this dot out service dot authenticate this dot form dot value dot username, and as well for the password we say pipe take until this dot ng unsubscribe, Then after that we say we subscribe. We have res bool. We as well need to reset our error, so this dot error equals null. If res this dot redirect router, sorry, dot navigate by URL, this dot redirect URL. I think this needs to be a slash. And of course we need to say this dot done loading. Sounds about right. Okay, now for our HTML. And we have our working login hopefully. So we have a div. So we want it full screen on mobile, and we want it pretty small on a decent screen. Card group, div class. This is all just code from Core UI, basically. And we translate this. So this translate is from ngx translate. You have text muted. I had it. I have still the translation keys from the last time. We have an alert. Type danger dismissible is true. Something I will do as well is add this to the shared module. So I will add the common bootstrap modules, alert module.forRoot, and then I will export it as well. So we don't need to always define this, just the shared module. Now we can use it. So ng if error and error not equals empty. Then we say okay, error, translate this. So our alert. Now we can build our form. So we say form, and our form has a form group equals form. We want to no validate through our browser, and we have an ng submit. Submit. Our shared module as well has the reactive forms module, so we don't have to import this. Small typo. Okay. So then we have a div. I will copy paste it. It's just HTML, and I will explain what it does. The interesting part. So basically, on our input, we need to we check is invalid, and we have and is invalid is true when we have a form error with a username. The same as invalid feedback. If you have a formal username, we just translate that one. Same for password, and then we have a submit button. We can add a disabled on that one, so we can say disabled when the form valid. So when a form is not valid, we disable this one. Think it's not rocket science. So we have some errors, but we have our form, but we have errors. So let's look at what that is. Username. Okay, this is a bit weird. Form errors. Username from undefined. Huh? Let's see what this is. Form errors dot username. Did I make a typo? I don't think so. I really don't see the error. Okay. It's empty. Well, I already see it. So we say here return form errors. And that will fix all of our nice problems. Or maybe not. Now it returns the form errors, it resets it with the field of form errors. Huh. I'm not sure what's going on. Programming life, happy life, I guess. How come this is always undefined? Oh, this is such a stupid error. So we need an equal sign instead of a colon. And now it will work. Yes, yes, yes. Guess who is feeling stupid now? Lol. You can always find it while debugging. So, do we now still have errors? Okay, we don't have the translations loaded. Okay, and I already see what the error is there, so that's an easy fix. Luckily. Oh, look at this. So if we then, okay, this field is required, which is correct. This field is required. So we have an admin user, we give it the wrong password. Let's see what it does. We have a 400 of the token, which is correct. But that's not so correct. Oh. Okay. Hmm. Ah, lol. No, it's correct. Why is what? Hmm. Missing grant type. What? We have a body of grant type password. So we have here grant type password username. Hmm. Then what's so different then? Okay, now we're catching the error at least, but now what? I I really don't know what I'm typing wrong. Oh no. Typos everywhere, guys. Typos everywhere. So we have admin. We have a wrong password, which is correct. Bad credentials. Okay. And if you now have the correct password, we are logged in. Okay. And we have our token info in our session storage. It is an access token and a refresh token. Okay. So we're a little bit over 2 hours. Uh, I'm going to end the stream here. I will do the commit. So what we did today is basically finished our setup. So we finished our setup of our front end application, and we as well did our login and authentication. So our authentication is now completed. So it's nice that we finished this one. So next stream we'll start working on basically functionalities of the CMS, which will be creating the sites, pages for that site, the page tree and stuff. We'll get into that stuff. So basically, what will be the workflow for new features there? We first need to develop the API, and then we develop the front end. Then again the API, front end, API, front end. So API will be out a little bit further on than the front end. So if you liked it, be sure to follow or subscribe to me. And I will keep the series going as long as I have time and I feel motivated. The code is as well on GitHub, so you can follow there. See you guys.